All right, good morning, friends. We're back in the garden with Millie. We've got even more new friends to introduce you to today. Look who's finally here. Those praying mantises. The babies, the weather got warm enough and humid enough, and we came out in the garden this morning and their tent is crawling with praying mantis babies. So we'll take Millie out to say good morning. Say good morning, boys and girls. Oh, you found something to eat? We won't disturb your breakfast. No. Go ahead. You finish your breakfast. And we are going to attempt to look at these guys up close outside their tent. But before we do that, I want to read to you today's story by Don Freeman. This is the author who wrote Corduroy, if you know the book Corduroy, about the little bear who has his adventures. This is a new one for me. This is called Manuelo the Playing Mantis. It's a little bit of a play on words. Let's see. By Don Freeman. Manuelo the Playing Mantis. Manuelo the Playing Mantis. One warm summer evening in Cloverdale Meadow, a lonely praying mantis named Manuelo stood still as a stick, listening to beautiful music coming over the hill. Manuelo had attended these outdoor concerts many times before, and he knew the shapes and sounds of all the different instruments. His favorite sounds were those of the flute, the trumpet, the harp, and the cello. Sounds like a book that Miss Linda might like. Manuelo wished that he too could be a musician. Right here he is watching all the music. When the concert was over, he climbed down from his perch in the thicket and went home to the pond. Hopefully, Manuelo started rubbing his legs against his wings the way crickets and grasshoppers and katydids do whenever they sing. But as hard as he rubbed, he heard only silence and the clicking of a cricket coming nearer and nearer. Clickety-click, it chirped. A mantis can't make music the way I can. And then, just as quickly as it had appeared, it disappeared behind the tall grass. There must be something I can do, Manuelo sighed to himself. Then all at once, he thought to himself and said, I know, I'll make a flute. At the water's edge, Manuelo found exactly what he needed, a hollow cattail. In the middle of the pond, a frog sat practicing his singing. He stopped his croaking and watched Manuelo as he clipped off one of the tall reeds and nipped several tiny holes along the stem. Oops, we got a sticky page. But when Manuelo held up his flute and began to blow, not a sound came through. Not even a toot. Croaked the frog. We frogs know how to croak. Now that's music. A mantis can't make music the way that frogs can. And with that, he jumped into the water. However, Manuelo hadn't even noticed the frog. His mind was on more important matters, and he set out to find another kind of instrument to play. Wonder what he's going to try next. Close by, he spied a trumpet vine clinging to a wall. Just the thing, he cried. I'll play the horn. After snipping a trumpet flower, he held it up the way any fine trumpet player does, and he began to blow. He blew and he blew and he blew until he grew blue in the face. Once again, not a single sound could he make. But Manuelo was not going to give up easily. On he went, undaunted. He scanned the ground for something out of which he could fashion a harp. "Ah, at last, just what I want," he said, picking up a twisty twig that had fallen off a tree. Soon he had bent and fastened the fig twig into a perfect harp shape. For strings, he found some strands of old cobweb that had stretched across the lowest branches of the fig tree. Now he was ready to play his harp. But when he began to stroke the delicate strands, they broke off one by one, all because of his snippy claws. No, indeed, the harp was not meant to be his instrument. Poor Manuelo sat there feeling very sad. He loved music so much, and yet he could not make any. At that very moment, 3 katydids came out into the clearing and began to chant, "Katydid, katydid, katydid." "Don't you know a mantis can't make music the way that we can?" Manuelo was discouraged and almost ready to give up when he heard something whirring high above his head. "Take heart, my good friend," said a wispy voice. "I know how you feel. I can't make music either." So who do you think is going to come? Turning his head completely around, Manuelo looked up and saw a spindly spider suspended by a thread from a branch above. "My name is Debbie Webster. I've been watching you all evening," she said as she slid down lower and lower until she hung directly in front of Manuelo. "And if you do as I tell you, maybe together we can make a cello. But first, you must promise not to eat me." Right? Looks like they should both make that promise, right? We got 2 carnivores going to work together. Manuelo's eyes widened. He had forgotten all about the cello. "Why, of course I promised not to eat you," and he meant it. "This could be worth 1,000 meals." "All right then," advised the spider. "First, you must fetch me an empty walnut shell and a stick with a curlicue end." Without asking any questions, Manuelo went about searching everywhere. In hardly any time at all, he found half a walnut shell and a stick with a curlicue on the end. Tucking them both underneath his arms, he rushed back to his spindly spider friend. "Now, my good mantis," said Debbie, "if you will fix the stick tightly to the shell, I will spin some strong strings for you." No sooner had Debbie whispered this than Manuelo attached the stick to the walnut shell. He watched as the nimble spider spun 4 strong silken threads from one end to the other. "All we need now is a bow," said Debbie. "Can you think of something that might do the trick?" Yes, I know," exclaimed Manuelo. "I saw a bluebird's feather that should make a splendid bow." And indeed it did. At last, Manuelo was ready to play his cello. Taking the bow in his right hand, he began moving it softly across the silken strings. As he bowed back and forth, the most beautiful melody filled the night air. Debbie swayed to and fro, keeping perfect time to the music like a pendulum. Gradually, from the grassy glade, from behind the fig tree, and from out of the pond, crickets, grasshoppers, katydids, and frogs came creeping forward, making a wide circle round Manuelo. As they listened, each creature could not resist joining in with the cello's mellow music. Soon everyone was taking part in the concert with clicking, fiddling, wing singing, and deep-throated croaking. Never was there a more glorious insect symphony. On and on, far into the night, Manuelo played to everyone's delight. As the first glow of dawn lighted the morning sky, Manuelo rose slowly to his full height and stretched his arms out wide, a sight which served as a warning to the rest of the orchestra to take leave. Right? He could eat them all up if he wanted to. Manuelo waited for Debbie Webster to slide down the hollow nutshell. Then he slung the cello over his shoulder and strode across the meadow to his home in the thicket. And every summer night thereafter, Manuelo played his cello while Debbie swayed back and forth. So that is the story of Manuelo, the cello playing mantis. And the thing that I like about this book is he used a lot of stem, right? He kept trying different things and improvising, and when something didn't work, he just tried something new. And in the end, he and the spider were able to work together to engineer himself a musical instrument. Now, I'm going to clip in. Let's see how this works, because I'm going to need 2 hands to work with these little guys. They're so tiny. Look at them. Okay, hold on. I'll be right back. Okay, so we're back. I was able to take out the branch where the egg sac was. So there's the egg sac. And as you can see on it, I don't even know if you can really see it, there's all these little tiny baby praying mantises. And some of them, I don't even know if they're still crawling out. Maybe we'll work with the one that I definitely know is old from last year. Now, praying mantises don't go through metamorphosis. They are born looking exactly like they're going to look when they are grown-ups. Let me see if I can get one on my finger. And what they do is molt. So as they get older and they get larger, they shed their outside skin, and then their body grows bigger and they get new skin. Kind of like a snake. Every time they shed their skin. So these guys don't go through a metamorphosis. They look on their day 1 same as they're going to look when they're grown-ups, except when they're grown-ups they're going to be maybe as big as my finger. So they do grow a lot. Alright, so that is the baby. I'm going to let these guys go straight into the garden, because we know they're carnivores and we know they're super hungry, and I'm afraid if I leave them in their container for too long, they might start to eat one another, which would not be a great way to start out with your family, right? So here's this other one. We had some rain last night, so a lot of them are a little wet. They've got to dry out. Oh, look at these guys. They're crawling. Can you see them? There's 2. And these guys are the lions of the garden. They'll eat anything. They're kind of cute though. I don't know if you can see them too good. Right there on my finger. Come on. So what I thought we would do is we'll take a look at the inside of the egg sac so that we can see what the inside looks like. This is the new one where they're still, I'm going to put this one just right in the garden because you can see they're still crawling out of that egg sac. We don't want to cut it open and hurt anybody who's still inside. That guy hopped off my finger. Good. Come on, guys. If you could stick to your side of the table, that would be super helpful. So this is the old one. This is from last year. And so we'll cut this one open so you can see what the inside looks like. But just to compare it, I saved the chrysalises from the caterpillars. And you can see this one is like paper thin. This is their old skin that they changed into the butterfly inside. But the praying mantis egg sac is squishy. Remember we talked about that? It's sort of like a it's sort of like styrofoam, like a styrofoam peanut, or even like a cheese doodle. So I've got my sharp knife, and we'll cut this old one. This is the old one, and nobody's in here. So I'm gonna cut this one open. Oops, I hope. And we'll try to see what it looks like on the inside. Might be a little tricky to do because, like I said last night, it rained, and so everybody's sort of wet. But these egg sacs are made to withstand all kinds of weather, even the winter. So you can see inside each of these little sections right here, boop, 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 is where there was a baby. And so this is the old one, so if I were to cut this new one open, we would probably find babies still inside. So you could see they're kind of each making their own little hole and crawling out. So that is our praying mantises. Like I said, I'll show you. I can see if I can show you in here, inside their tent. There's a few that are soaking wet. They got to dry off. We got to figure out a way to dry them off because we don't want them getting stuck. It's supposed to rain again this afternoon. But you see them all? I don't even know if you can really... Can you see them? One praying mantis egg sac can have between 150 and 300 babies in it. So that is a lot of brothers and sisters. All right, so we'll say goodbye to Millie, and then I'll put these guys in a sunny spot in the garden, and hopefully they'll dry off before our next rainstorm. Oh, see this guy, he got wet. He couldn't turn himself over. They're still brand new. Look how tiny they are. All right, Millie, you want to say goodbye to the children? Say, I don't know. There's a lot of things crawling around on this table. I'm not too sure about that. What? I know, we gotta go in and have lunch. Give him a boop. Love you. Hi. We're back one more quick time. It occurred to me as I was getting ready to clean up that we did not put these guys in our garden journal. So I ran in quick and I got my journal and my crayons. So we did our egg case the other day. And now it's time to do our adult, well, it's technically not an adult yet, but, and we've got one right here so we can look at it up close. See right there? So a praying mantis sort of reminds me of an alien. It's got a sort of a triangular shaped head. In fact, I'll draw it because these guys are, they're kind of hard to see. They're so tiny. So there you go. See them right there? All right. So let me get my green crayon. And they sort of remind me of an alien. They've got a triangular shaped head. And they've got two big eyes. Usually, whenever I see pictures of them, their eyes are always pink or red. I don't know why that is, because their eyes, I don't know, they look kind of black to me, but who knows. Well, so we've got those big eyes. Then they've got a long, it would be the thorax, where it sort of starts skinny and it gets sort of like a teardrop shape. And then they've got their abdomen that kind of is like a light bulb shape. You see all that? Yeah. Then right? Because we know they've got 3 body parts. They've got the head, the thorax, and the abdomen. And we know all their legs are going to come out of this middle part. So their back legs are quite strong for jumping. And I think they've got, let me see if I can look at it up close. Sort of janky right there. Oh, look, one's hanging upside down. Yeah, so it looks like they've got 2 sets of big legs and 1 sort of set of arm legs. Can you see that by my crayon? This guy's hanging upside down. Okay, so we're going to make 2 sets of these jumping legs. And then for the arm, well, not arms, technically they're legs, but they're a little bit more muscular. Right? Doesn't he kind of look like an alien? And we know they've got a mouth because that's what does all their eating. I'm going to make mine look a little happy. And we know they've got antenna. And these are one of the bigger insects. And they're all different shades of green to help them blend in. So what the praying mantis does is finds a branch where he's the same kind of color as the leaves and sort of hangs out there, and then when a bug wanders by, he grabs them and eats them up. So some people call these guys the lions of the garden. This is what a big one would look like. You know, obviously they're so tiny, but they don't change their shape. They stay the same shape always. So we're going to write the word mantis on our in our journal so we remember. I think I'll use green today. Why not? So we'll do M, like alligator, A, man, N, mant, there's a T, mant, like igloo and iguana, I, mantis. And there it is, mantis, M-A-N-T-I-S. And that started out as an egg case, and now we have all the mantis babies. I think if it's more than one, we call them mantids, not mantises, but I'll have to check. All right, so let's see. We'll say goodbye. See him crawling around over there? Okie dokie. Happy sciencing. I wonder what you're going to put in your garden journal today.